This story is titled, My Brother Stole My Other Brother's Fiancée, Destroyed Our Family, and Karma Finally Hit. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Using throwaway because way too many people know my main account, and this story is pretty specific. Also, English isn't my first language. Parents are Polish, but we moved to Michigan when I was 3. So sorry for any mistakes. All right, Reddit, buckle up because this is going to be a wild ride. For context, I, 28 male, grew up in this small town outside Detroit where everyone knows everyone's business. You know the type. Friday night football games are basically a town holiday, and you can't buy groceries without running into at least 3 people who've known you since you were in diapers. We weren't rich growing up, but we definitely weren't struggling either. Dad's been in construction since forever. Started as a worker and eventually got his own crew. Mom's that teacher everyone remembers from elementary school, the one who bakes cookies for her class and actually cares about her students. They busted their asses to give us a good life, and they did a pretty decent job. There's 4 of us kids, and I swear our family dynamics could be a sitcom if it wasn't for all the drama that went down. First, there's Marcus, 31 male, the golden child who actually deserved the title. Dude's always been annoyingly perfect, valedictorian, football team captain, the whole package. But here's the thing, he wasn't a dick about it. Like, he actually helped me with my homework and taught me how to drive without being condescending. After college, he started his own construction company with some help from Dad's connections, and by 25, he was making more money than our parents combined. Then there's me, 28 male, the middle child stereotype come to life lol. I work in IT, make decent money, nothing spectacular. I'm the guy everyone comes to with their problems because I'm good at listening. Translation, I can keep my mouth shut about secrets. I game too much, probably drink more energy drinks than I should, and I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with my life beyond fixing other people's computer problems. Sarah, 26 female, is next. She's the peacekeeper of the family, works as a nurse, always trying to fix everything and everyone. Got that whole nurturing thing from mom, I guess. She's the one who organizes all the family events and remembers everyone's birthdays. The kind of sister who'll show up at your place with soup when you're sick, even if you didn't tell her you weren't feeling well. And then there's Jack, 24 male. Oh boy, Jack, the baby of the family who never really grew up. Mom and Dad spoiled him rotten. Not gonna lie, we all did. When he was born, I was already 4 and remember thinking I finally had a little brother to boss around. Sarah was too feisty. He was this cute kid who could get away with murder just by smiling. Looking back, maybe that's where the problem started. Our house was always the spot where everyone hung out after school. Mom's chocolate chip cookies were legendary in the neighborhood. Seriously, she should have opened a bakery. And Dad built this awesome deck in the backyard with a fire pit where we'd all sit around telling stories. Every weekend was like a mini party. Friends coming and going, BBQs that lasted all day, that kind of thing. Growing up, we had this whole one for all for one thing going on. Mom was big on family loyalty, like really big on it. She'd always say, at the end of the day, blood is all you've got. If one of us got in trouble at school, we all got lectured. If someone was being bullied, we all showed up to deal with it. When Marcus got into a fight defending Sarah from some creep at a party, we all covered for him. Sorry, Mom, if you're somehow reading this. That dent in the car wasn't from a shopping cart. Dad was more the silent type, but his actions spoke volumes. He never missed a single game, concert, or school event for any of us. Worked overtime to make sure we could all go to college without drowning in debt. The man literally built additions to our house with his own hands so we could each have our own room as we got older. We had our issues, sure. What family doesn't? Marcus could be a bit of a perfectionist, always trying to help fix everyone's problems. I went through a phase in high school where I was kind of a dick. Sorry about the emo phase, Mom. Sarah had her drama with boyfriends that we all had to deal with. And Jack. Well, Jack was always a bit self-centered, but we chalked it up to being the baby of the family. But despite all that, we were tight. Like, really tight. Family dinners every Sunday were mandatory. Even through college, we'd all drive back home unless we literally couldn't make it. Holidays were huge affairs with all the cousins, aunts, and uncles cramming into our house. We had these stupid family traditions that probably looked weird to outsiders, but meant the world to us, like our annual Christmas Eve pizza night, long story, or the way we'd all pile into Marcus's room during thunderstorms, a habit from when we were kids that just never stopped. So about 2 years ago, Marcus meets this girl Olivia at some fancy contractor showcase thing. He was there showing off his company's work, and she was this hotshot interior designer who just moved to the area from Chicago. The way Marcus tells it, or used to tell it before everything went to shit, she walked up to his booth and started absolutely roasting his choice of bathroom tiles in this model home display. Said something about how beige is the color of giving up on life. And Marcus, instead of getting offended, just fell head over heels. This is where I need to paint you a picture of Olivia because it's important for understanding how everything went down. First off, she was gorgeous. Like, turn heads when she walks in gorgeous. But not in that intimidating way. More like the girl next door who somehow also looks like she could be on magazine covers. Long brown hair, always perfectly styled. Found out later she spent like $200 on haircuts, which blew my mind. She had this subtle tattoo of a compass on her wrist that she got while backpacking through Europe after college. Trust me, we all heard that story about 50 times. But here's the thing about Olivia. She wasn't just pretty. Girl was smart as hell and funny too. Had this way of telling stories that made even the most boring stuff sound interesting. She could talk about paint swatches for an hour and somehow keep everyone engaged. And she had this laugh. Man, this genuine belly laugh that would make everyone else start laughing too. Even our dad, who usually takes forever to warm up to our partners, was cracking jokes around her by the second family dinner. The first time Marcus brought her home, it was like watching someone complete a puzzle we didn't even know was missing pieces. She jumped right in to help mom in the kitchen, and actually knew what she was doing. Apparently her grandmother was some famous chef in Chicago. She could talk sports with dad without having to fake interest. She even managed to get Sarah to spill about this guy she was dating, which was impressive because Sarah's usually super private about that stuff. They moved fast, but nobody questioned it because they just worked. After 6 months, Olivia was basically living at Marcus's place. By 8 months, they were house hunting together. Marcus proposed at the 1-year mark, and I've never seen my brother so nervous about anything. He planned this whole elaborate thing, rented out this rooftop restaurant, hired a photographer, the works. But in typical Marcus fashion, he ended up blurting out the proposal in the parking lot because he couldn't wait any longer. Olivia loved it though, said it was perfectly them. The house they bought together was this huge old Victorian that needed a ton of work, but with Marcus's construction knowledge and Olivia's design skills, they turned it into something out of a magazine. Like, literally, it got featured in some local home and garden publication. They had this whole vision for it. Room for future kids, a huge kitchen for family gatherings, even a basement apartment they were planning to fix up for mom and dad when they got older. Everything was perfect. Too perfect looking back. You know that saying about things that seem too good to be true? Yeah, this is where Jack starts showing up more in the story. He'd just graduated college with some generic business degree. No offense to business majors, but this was his third major after switching from engineering and then psychology. He moved back home because the job market was tough and started working part-time at this car dealership. It started with these little things that seemed innocent enough on their own, like Jack suddenly got really into fitness. Now, my brother had always been in decent shape, but suddenly he's at the gym twice a day, buying all these fancy workout clothes, posting thirst traps on Instagram. Cringe, I know. At first, we all just thought he was going through some quarter-life crisis thing, but then I noticed he was only this dedicated on days when he knew Olivia would be there. The gym thing turned into smoothie dates, which turned into work meetings, because suddenly Jack was really interested in interior design. Yeah, right. This is the same guy who had Star Wars posters taped to his wall with actual Scotch tape until he was 20. But now he's spending hours looking through Olivia's portfolio and asking about color schemes? Please. I remember this one specific day that really set off alarm bells. Marcus had this huge project about 2 hours away, so he was gone a lot. I stopped by their house to drop off some stuff mom had sent over. She was always sending random care packages, usually full of those famous cookies. I walked in. We all had keys because Marcus wanted us to feel welcome, and found Jack and Olivia sitting way too close on the couch, looking at something on her laptop. The way they jumped apart when they heard me. I've seen guilty teenagers with better poker faces. Olivia started rambling about some client project she was working on, how Jack was so helpful with the business side of things. Meanwhile, Jack couldn't even look me in the eye. The air was so thick with awkward tension, you could cut it with a knife. But here's the part that really kills me. I didn't say anything. I just stood there, making small talk like an idiot, pretending I didn't see how red Jack's face was, or how Olivia's shirt buttons didn't line up right. I told myself I was imagining things, that my little brother wouldn't do that to Marcus. that Olivia wouldn't throw away everything she and Marcus had built together. The incidents kept piling up, though. Sarah noticed it too. We were at this family BBQ, one of those big ones where everyone brings their kids and dogs and it's total chaos. Sarah pulled me aside behind Dad's garage where we used to hide to smoke in high school. Sorry again, Mom. She was practically vibrating with nervous energy. Please tell me I'm not the only one seeing this, she whispered, gesturing towards where Jack and Olivia were standing by the drinks table. They weren't even doing anything obvious, just talking and laughing. But there was this electricity between them. The way Olivia would touch Jack's arm when she laughed, how Jack's eyes followed her every movement. I tried to play it off. They're just friendly, I said, not even believing myself. Sarah gave me this look that could have peeled paint. Friendly? Are you blind? Look at them! And yeah, when you really looked, it was obvious. The lingering touches, the inside jokes, the way they'd gravitate toward each other at every family gathering, how Jack would jump up to help if Olivia needed anything, while Marcus, sweet, oblivious Marcus, would just smile, probably thinking how great it was that his fiancée and brother got along so well. The worst part was watching Olivia with Marcus. She was still playing the part of the perfect fiancée, planning the wedding, talking about their future, acting totally in love. But something was off. She stopped looking at him the same way, started checking her phone more during their conversations, would get this guilty look whenever Marcus talked about the wedding. Then came the text messages. I wasn't snooping, I swear. But one day, Olivia's phone lit up while she was helping Mom in the kitchen, and I happened to see Jack's name pop up with a message that definitely wasn't about interior design, if you know what I mean. She snatched the phone up so fast she almost dropped it in the sink. I started noticing a pattern. Jack would show up at their house almost every day Marcus had job sites to visit, always with some excuse. Needed to borrow tools, wanted workout advice, had questions about starting his own business. But he'd stay for hours, long after any legitimate reason would have justified. The breaking point for me was when Marcus excitedly told me they'd picked a wedding date. June 15th. You know what Jack did when he heard? He dropped his glass. Just straight up shattered it on Mom's kitchen floor. Olivia rushed to help him clean up, and I swear to God I saw tears in his eyes. I should have said something then. Should have pulled Marcus aside and told him what I was seeing. But how do you tell your brother that his fiancée and your little brother are obviously falling for each other? How do you blow up your entire family with just a few words? So I kept quiet. We all did. Sarah, me, even Mom, who I know noticed something was up because she started inviting Marcus over without Olivia more often, saying things like, let's have some mom and son time. But none of us wanted to be the one to strike the match that would burn everything down. Turns out, we didn't have to. They did that all by themselves. I'll never forget that Friday night. It's burned into my memory like a bad tattoo. September 13th. Yeah, Friday the 13th. Because apparently the universe has a sick sense of humor. Marcus was supposed to be overseeing this huge project 2 hours away. Some luxury apartment complex that was behind schedule. He'd been pulling 14-hour days trying to get it back on track. That night, he decided to surprise Olivia by coming home early. He'd stopped to get her favorite takeout from this little Thai place they loved. He was going to surprise her because they hadn't had a proper date night in weeks. Fuck, I still get sick thinking about it. I was at home playing Xbox when my phone started blowing up. First, a text from Sarah. Something's wrong, Marcus isn't answering. Then, one from Mom. Have you heard from your brother? Finally, at 11:47 p.m., Marcus called. You know that moment in movies where someone gets bad news and they show the phone dropping in slow motion? That's exactly what happened. His voice? I've never heard anything like it. Hollow. Empty. Like someone had reached in and scooped out his soul. They're in our bed. That's all he said at first. Just 4 words that changed everything. I was already grabbing my keys before he finished speaking. The drive to his house was a blur. I'm pretty sure I broke every traffic law in existence. When I pulled up, Marcus's truck was in the driveway, engine still running, that Thai food sitting on the passenger seat getting cold. He was just sitting there, still in his work clothes, covered in construction dust, staring straight ahead like he was watching a movie only he could see. When I tapped on his window, he turned to look at me with these eyes that, Jesus, I'll never forget that look. The scene inside was like something out of a bad drama. Clothes scattered everywhere. And I mean everywhere. Jack's fancy gym shirt hanging off the banister. Olivia's dress crumpled on the stairs. Their shoes jumbled together by the front door like some sick parody of domestic life. I could hear Olivia crying upstairs, that ugly kind of crying where you can't catch your breath. Jack was stumbling around their bedroom, Marcus's bedroom, trying to get his pants on and looking like he was about to throw up. The sheets were a mess, pillows everywhere, and there was an empty wine bottle knocked over on the nightstand. They'd been drinking the expensive stuff Marcus had been saving for their wedding. Olivia kept trying to explain, like there's any explanation for fucking your fiancé's brother in the bed you share. She was wearing Marcus's old college t-shirt, the one she always slept in, and somehow that detail made everything even worse. Jack just stood there, shirtless, with this deer in headlights look that made me want to punch him in his stupid face. But Marcus? Marcus was terrifyingly calm. He walked into that bedroom like he was entering any normal construction site, surveyed the damage, took a deep breath. Then he looked at Jack, his baby brother, the kid he'd taught to ride a bike, helped with homework, bailed out of trouble countless times, and said in this voice I'd never heard before, "Get out before I do something we'll both regret." Jack tried to speak, started some bullshit about being in love, about how it just happened, multiple times apparently over months. I don't know what pissed me off more, the words coming out of his mouth or the fact that he actually thought he had any right to speak at all. I grabbed Jack by the arm and practically dragged him out. Not for his sake, for Marcus's. Because I knew if Jack stayed one more second, Marcus would kill him. And honestly, part of me wanted to let him. Olivia followed us down the stairs, crying and trying to grab at Marcus's arm. "Please, let me explain. It's not what you think. Because what else could it be when you're naked in bed with your fiancé's brother, right?" Marcus just stood there, still eerily calm, and said, "You have an hour to get your stuff and get out. Anything left behind gets burned." He wasn't joking. The next day, he had a bonfire in the backyard. Watching their engagement photos curl and blacken in the flames was oddly satisfying. I stayed with Marcus that night. We didn't talk much. Just sat in his truck for hours, engine off now, staring at the house he'd bought for their future. Around 3 a.m., he finally spoke again. "I was going to name our first son after Dad." That's when he finally broke. Just shattered. I held my big brother while he cried for the first time since we were kids. What else could I do? Sarah showed up around dawn with coffee and donuts. Mom kept calling, but we ignored it. We all knew she'd try to fix things. Try to find some way to keep the family together. But some things can't be fixed. Some betrayals cut too deep. You know how in disaster movies, there's always that quiet moment right after the big explosion? That weird silence before the secondary blasts start? That's what the next few weeks felt like. The initial bomb had gone off, but the aftershocks were just beginning. The morning after the discovery, yeah, it deserves capitals, Mom showed up at Marcus's house like a tornado in mom jeans. She'd been blowing up all our phones all night, but we'd been ignoring her because we knew exactly how this would play out. See, our mom has this thing about family, like an almost pathological need to fix everything and keep us all together. It's usually sweet, but this time, it was like watching someone try to put a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. "These things happen," she said, standing in Marcus's kitchen like she was discussing a spilled glass of milk and not the complete destruction of her son's life. "We can work through this as a family." Marcus just stared at her, coffee cup frozen halfway to his mouth, like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Sarah, who'd stayed over too, actually laughed, this harsh, bitter sound that made Mom flinch. But Mom wasn't done. She started going on about how Jack and Olivia didn't mean to fall in love, and sometimes the heart wants what it wants. Yeah, she actually said that, like we were in some Hallmark movie. That's when Marcus finally lost it. Not in a loud way, almost worse. He just got up, walked to his room, and started packing a bag. Didn't say a word. Here's where it gets even messier. 2 days later, Jack and Olivia moved in together. Not to some apartment across town, not to another city. No, they got a place 3 blocks from Marcus's house. 3 blocks. In our small town, that meant Marcus couldn't even go to his favorite coffee shop without risking running into them. Dad's reaction was something else entirely. Remember how I said he was the quiet type? Well, turns out he had a voice when he needed it. He showed up at Jack's new place. Found out later Mom had given him the address. And the neighbors probably learned some new curse words that day. Called Jack every name in the book. Told him he was no son of his. The whole 9 yards. Then he went home and took down every single photo of Jack from the house. Just erased him. Sarah handled it her own way. She's a nurse, right? Works at the local hospital. Apparently, Olivia came in for some routine thing, and Sarah made sure she got the intern, who's known for missing veins on the first few tries for her blood draw. Petty? Maybe. Satisfying? Absolutely. The real kicker came when we had to start dealing with the wedding stuff. They'd already put deposits down on everything. The venue, the catering, the band. Marcus didn't care about the money. His business was doing well enough that he could take the hit. But canceling everything meant having to tell people what happened. In our small town, news travels fast, but somehow having to say it out loud made it worse every time. Then the social media shitstorm started. Olivia, in her infinite wisdom, decided to post this long, dramatic statement about following your heart, and sometimes love finds you in unexpected places. Included a photo of her and Jack looking soulfully into each other's eyes. The comment section turned into a war zone. Most people were Team Marcus because duh, but there were actually a few people defending them? Like, what kind of person sees man steals brother's fiancée and thinks, yes, this is romantic? Mom kept trying to play peacekeeper. She'd invite Jack and Olivia over for dinner, then act surprised when Marcus, Sarah, and I wouldn't come. She started this exhausting rotation of visiting each of us separately, probably thinking she could slowly wear us down. He's still your brother, she'd say to Marcus. She made a mistake, but she's not a bad person, she'd tell Sarah. I got treated to endless variations of family is everything and we need to forgive. Christmas was a nightmare. Mom tried to organize this big family dinner, thinking she could force us all to play nice. Dad put his foot down for once. Said if Jack showed up, he wouldn't. Marcus spent the holiday at his best friend's place in Chicago. Sarah and I did a sad little celebration at my apartment, ordered Chinese food, and got drunk watching Die Hard. Not very festive, but it felt appropriate. Remember how I said some things can't be fixed? Well, Jack and Olivia seemed determined to prove that wrong, in the most spectacularly awful way possible. 6 months after destroying our family, they decided to get married. Not just married. They planned almost the exact same wedding Olivia had been planning with Marcus. I wish I was exaggerating. Same venue, that beautiful vineyard Marcus had booked. Same color scheme, that sage green and gold combination Olivia had spent months perfecting with our mom. Even the same fucking florist. The only difference? They moved the date up to April instead of June, probably because Olivia didn't want to look too pregnant in her dress. Oh yeah, forgot to mention that part. They announced their engagement and pregnancy at the same time. Real classy. The invitations arrived on a Tuesday. I remember because I was working from home and heard Marcus's truck screech to a halt outside my apartment. He burst in without knocking, holding this cream-colored envelope like it was a live snake. Inside was this tastefully designed invitation, because of course Olivia's aesthetic taste was still impeccable, even if her moral compass was completely shot. It read, "Join us in celebrating the union of Jack, last name, and Olivia, last name." The absolute audacity of it. They'd invited everyone. Me, Marcus, Sarah, Mom, Dad, all our extended family, their mutual friends. Even included a little handwritten note about how family means everything to us, and how they hoped we could all move forward together. Sarah actually threw up when she got hers. Not morning sickness, pure rage. Mom, predictably, saw this as her big chance for family reconciliation. She started this whole campaign about how attending the wedding would show maturity and set a good example of forgiveness. Dad shut that down real quick. His exact words were, "The only way I'm going to that wedding is if I'm there to object." Pretty sure he wasn't joking. But here's where it gets even more twisted. They didn't just copy the wedding plans. They tried to recreate the whole relationship narrative. Suddenly, their social media was full of these staged photos, recreating all these special moments that Olivia had originally shared with Marcus. Same spots, similar poses, even the same captions sometimes. It was like watching someone make a cheap knockoff of a movie you love. The weeks leading up to their wedding were like watching a slow-motion train wreck. Jack kept trying to reach out to us, sending these long, rambling texts about how everything happens for a reason, and how sometimes you have to hurt people to follow your truth. Yeah, he actually said that. Guess those philosophy classes in college really paid off. Olivia even had the nerve to ask Sarah to be a bridesmaid again, saying something about how sisters should stick together. Sarah's response isn't printable on Reddit. Mom went to the wedding. Of course she did. Got all dressed up, brought a gift, the whole 9 yards. She took pictures with the happy couple, posted them on Facebook with some caption about love conquering all. Marcus saw them while we were having our alternative celebration, aka getting drunk at my place and planning elaborate revenge fantasies we'd never actually carry out. He just looked at the photos, laughed this horrible empty laugh, and said, "At least Dad kept his word." Because Dad spent the day of the wedding teaching Marcus's godson how to fish. Sent Jack a single text. "I hope it was worth it." Then blocked his number. They say karma takes her time, but when she finally shows up, she makes it count. Well, Reddit, this is where everything comes full circle in the most beautifully ironic way possible. Remember how Jack and Olivia's whole relationship started with betrayal? Guess how it ended? If you said, "with another betrayal, congratulations. You've been paying attention." It happened about 3 months ago. Their perfect little life was all over social media, Matching gym outfits, fancy date nights, nursery progress pics, gag, and these weird monthly pregnancy photo shoots that Olivia insisted on doing. Everything looked Instagram perfect on the surface. The golden couple who followed their hearts and found true love despite all the haters, aka their own family who they betrayed. Then, one day, Mom calls me at work. I almost didn't answer because lately, every call from her had been some variation of, "Can't we all just move past this?" But something in my gut said, "Pick up." As soon as I heard her voice, I knew something big had happened. She was doing that thing where she tries to sound casual but can't quite pull it off. "Have you talked to your brother lately?" she asked. And for the first time in forever, she wasn't talking about trying to fix things with Jack. Turns out, Olivia had been having an affair. Not just any affair. She was sleeping with Jack's best friend from high school, Tom. You know, the same Tom who was Jack's best man at the wedding. The same Tom who gave this emotional speech about loyalty and friendship at their reception. The same Tom who'd been helping Olivia with her prenatal yoga practice for the past few months. But wait, it gets better. They didn't just get caught. They got caught in spectacular fashion. Tom's wife, yeah, he was married too, found their text messages and decided the best revenge was to screenshot everything and post it all on Facebook. We're talking months of messages, secret photos, explicit details about their meetups. Tom's wife tagged everyone they knew, and I mean everyone. Their families, their friends, their coworkers. It was like watching a nuclear bomb go off in slow motion. The messages were enlightening. Turns out Olivia and Tom had been hooking up since before the wedding. Their special connection started right around the time she was posting those perfect honeymoon photos with Jack. The real kicker? Some of their meetups happened in Jack and Olivia's bed. The same thing they'd done to Marcus. Like I said, karma has a sense of humor. Want to know the best part? I was actually with Marcus when we found out. We were at this new brewery he's helping renovate, going over some plans, when our phones started blowing up with notifications. Marcus read through the post, looked at all the screenshots, and just started laughing. Not a bitter laugh, not an angry laugh. Genuine, tears-in-your-eyes laughter. "Guess the heart wants what it wants," he managed to say between wheezes. Sarah, who's apparently been waiting for this moment, immediately reshared the post with the caption, "Karma takes reservations." Cold? Maybe. Satisfying? Absolutely. Jack's reaction was everything you'd expect. He moved out that same day, leaving Olivia crying in their perfect house with its perfect nursery. He tried calling all of us. Me, Marcus, Sarah, even Dad. Left these rambling voicemails about how now he understands what he did to Marcus and how sorry he is. Too little, too late, buddy. Mom, predictably, is beside herself. She keeps saying things like, "Haven't we all suffered enough?" And "Now is the time to come together as a family." Dad's response? Sounds like a them problem. Marcus didn't even bother responding to her messages. The real cherry on top? Olivia tried to blame it all on pregnancy hormones. Made this whole tearful Instagram post about temporary insanity and how she never meant to hurt anyone. The comment section was a masterpiece of people calling out her BS. Apparently, some folks remembered her similar posts about following her heart when she left Marcus for Jack. As for Jack, last I heard he's living in Mom's basement again. Olivia's still in their house, posting vague inspirational quotes about weathering storms and finding strength in difficult times. Tom's marriage is obviously over, and he moved to his parents' place in Ohio. The karma trifecta is complete. Marcus, meanwhile, is actually doing great. He met this amazing woman through work, an architect who helps with his projects. They've been dating for a few months now, taking things slow. She knows the whole story and actually suggested we all go to therapy together to work through the family trauma. She's basically the anti-Olivia in every way. So that's where we are now. Jack's got a taste of his own medicine. Olivia's learning that karma doesn't play favorites, and the rest of us are finally moving on. Mom's still trying to fix everything, but even she's starting to realize some things can't be fixed. Sometimes the best revenge is just sitting back and letting people face the consequences of their own actions. TLDR, brother who stole my other brother's fiancée got karma'd when his wife, the former fiancée, cheated on him with his best friend. Sometimes the universe delivers justice in the most poetic way possible. Final edit. Holy shit, this blew up. Thanks for all the awards and support, Reddit. You guys are amazing. Edit 2. For everyone asking, yes, the baby is Jack's. They did a DNA test. No, Marcus isn't taking him back. And yes, Mom is still trying to get us all together for a family dinner. Edit 3. Update on Marcus. He just got engaged to the architect. Small private ceremony planned for next spring. And no, Jack and Olivia aren't invited.